The enormous crystal hall of the Galactic Council vibrated with unease as Ambassador James Miller positioned himself before the massive curved platform where alien representatives towered above him. His aged face remained blank, but his steel-gray eyes carried a silent strength that caused several council members to fidget nervously in their elevated positions. The council hall itself was an architectural wonder, deliberately built to make smaller species feel insignificant with its impossibly high ceilings and hovering platforms. 15 distinct alien races peered down from their seats of authority, their faces showing everything from indifferent boredom to thinly veiled disgust. Respected council members, Miller started, his voice unwavering in the enormous space. Humanity has spent half a century dutifully obeying every rule, satisfying every demand, and surpassing every standard you've placed before us. We stand here again requesting equal commercial privileges within the Federation. High Leader Xer, an imposing creature covered in rainbow-like scales, shifted forward. His kind had controlled the leadership role for more than 300 years. The Council has examined Earth's request, he declared, his translation device converting his strange sounds into standard galactic language. We have determined once more that your kind lacks the required advancement indicators for unlimited commercial access. Miller's grip on the speaking platform tensed slightly, the single hint of his mounting irritation. Behind him, the rest of the human representatives kept their professional appearance, though their stiff postures radiated tension. Might I ask which indicators we've failed to achieve this time? Miller questioned, putting just enough emphasis on those final words to make some council members react defensively. Council Member Bright, an avian creature notorious for her aggressive position against younger species, made a sound her translator turned into this statement: your technical capabilities remain undeveloped by our measurements. Your social organization still relies on antiquated concepts of separate nations. You haven't established the single planetary leadership we demand. Miller responded with a slow acknowledgement, retrieving a compact data tool. How interesting. Based on Federation regulations, Section 847 subsection B, a species must satisfy 7 among 10 advancement indicators for equal commercial privileges. Our most recent evaluations, confirmed by impartial observers, demonstrate we satisfy 8. Whispers rippled across the chamber. Miller pressed on. What's more, 3 other species presently holding full commercial privileges only satisfy 6 indicators. Anyone can verify this information in the Federation database. High Leader Rexer's scales darkened to a troubled shade. The Council maintains authority to render final judgments considering additional elements not specified in the standard guidelines. Ah, yes, Miller answered, his voice developing an edge that made several younger Council members react. The unspoken standards, the constantly shifting requirements, the unique circumstances that mysteriously always concern humans but never affect the Council's preferred species. Ambassador Miller, Rexer cautioned, your manner borders on disrespect. Miller pulled himself to maximum height. Though he stood physically beneath the council members, something about his presence made him appear to rise above them. Following today, you need not concern yourself with my manner anymore. Humanity officially declares its complete separation from the Galactic Federation. The chamber exploded with startled reactions. Multiple council members jumped from their positions, their various limbs gesturing frantically. You cannot simply leave, Brightwing shrieked, her translator barely managing to process her words. There exist procedures and established protocols. Miller's expression showed amusement, though his eyes remained cold. We actually can. We've dedicated the past 5 years quietly organizing for this exact situation. Every human resident has departed Federation territory. Our agreements have been lawfully terminated using provisions you never took time to examine properly. Starting immediately, humanity no longer operates under Federation authority. He turned toward the exit, then stopped and glanced back at the astonished council. You understand what makes this truly disappointing. We genuinely desired to become partners and equals. Instead, you handled us like youngsters experimenting with things beyond their comprehension. Mark this day well, honored council members. Mark it carefully, because this represents the moment you transformed humanity from enthusiastic collaborators into focused rivals. The human group departed the chamber in flawless synchronization, their footsteps resonating in the stunned quiet. As the enormous doors sealed behind them, anxiety finally started creeping into the council members' thoughts. They had just observed something without precedent, a species deciding to abandon the Federation's security and benefits. None among them rested peacefully that evening, troubled by Miller's parting statement and the disturbing sensation that they had committed a catastrophic error. The council chambers carried a different atmosphere in the weeks after humanity's exit. The customary magnificence seemed empty, overshadowed by a troubling silence none of the members wished to recognize. Zarissa, a junior data specialist for the Council's Information Division, remained at her workstation in the lower sections of the Great Crystal Tower, examining the information flows crossing her monitors. Her species possessed exceptional analytical capabilities, with 4 visual organs specifically evolved to handle multiple data sources at once. Presently, all 4 of her eyes concentrated on some highly concerning developments. Senior Specialist Portix, she summoned, her voice shaking somewhat. You must examine this. Portix, an information division veteran spanning over 4 decades, moved closer on his gravity platform. His crystalline body captured illumination, generating small rainbow patterns on adjacent surfaces. What have you discovered, Junior Specialist? Observe these commercial patterns, Zarissa indicated toward her primary monitor. Every human trader has totally departed from our principal commercial pathways. Yet the peculiar aspect is their destinations. She displayed a star chart marking numerous sectors in crimson. They're creating fresh pathways across regions we've consistently deemed unprofitable. The distant rim settlements, the asteroid fields, even the radiation areas. Port IX single quotes S crystalline structure dimmed somewhat. His species version of concern. Perhaps they're merely desperate for fresh markets. That was my initial assumption, Zarissa went on, her lower eyes rapidly processing with enthusiasm. However, examine these power measurements. She presented another monitor displaying scan information. Their vessels consume under half the fuel they previously needed for identical distances. Portix's structure dimmed more intensely. That's not possible. Their movement technology received assessments as primitive merely months earlier. Precisely, Zarissa responded enthusiastically, then rapidly reduced her volume, recalling her location. And it's beyond just their vessels. Examine these production reports from the distant settlements. The monitors filled with output information from numerous independent planets. Human products were surfacing on markets across the galaxy, but they had changed. More capable, more sophisticated, and somehow still less expensive than competing alternatives. Portix positioned his gravity platform nearer the workstation. How are they accomplishing this? We've observed their research locations for decades. They never displayed indications of such abilities. Zarissa's upper eyes focused while her lower ones kept examining information. Sir, I have a hypothesis. What if they've been concealing their actual capabilities throughout? What if everything we believed we understood about human technology was simply what they permitted us to observe? The senior specialist started dismissing her suggestion, then halted. Computer, retrieve the final technological evaluation of Earth preceding their separation. The monitor displayed reports, and both specialists examined them with increasing worry. Every significant progress in human technology had received documentation, classification, and dismissal as primitive by Council authorities. Yet viewing them currently, Portix recognized something peculiar. These progressions, he whispered, his crystalline body trembling with alarm. They're excessively consistent, excessively foreseeable, almost as though they received careful planning to seem gradual and constant. Zarissa completed, sufficient advancement to demonstrate development, yet never adequate to cause alarm. Portix rapidly accessed higher security documents. Observe this. Their separation wasn't abrupt whatsoever. They had systematically decreased their reliance on Federation resources for years. We simply never connected the evidence. An alert appeared across their monitors. Another human commercial fleet had been identified. This occasion, utilizing what seemed like some type of previously unknown protective technology. Portix's body had turned dark blue with concern. Compile a comprehensive report. This requires immediate council attention. Yet as Zarissa started gathering the information, both specialists understood it was already late. The humans hadn't merely departed. They had rushed away, carrying technological abilities nobody had suspected they held. In the grand chambers overhead, the council pursued their regular discussions, unaware their comfortable beliefs about humanity were approaching destruction. The murmurs of transformation were intensifying, and shortly they would become undeniable. 3 years following humanity's dramatic departure from the Galactic Federation, the Council's deepest concerns were starting to become reality. High Leader Rexer stood at his personal observation window in the Crystal Tower, watching the busy space routes below. His scales had adopted a lasting grayish color, indicating prolonged stress in his kind. Display the newest intelligence report. He instructed his personal AI. A holographic projection appeared, presenting footage of a human commercial vessel. The ship was unlike anything the Federation had witnessed previously. Elegant, dark, and traveling with extraordinary grace. Its exterior seemed to consume sensor examinations rather than return them, and its power signature was scarcely noticeable. Sixth observation this week, his AI informed him. This vessel traversed 50 light-years in less than 3 days. Our quickest ships would require 2 weeks for the identical journey. Rexer's tail moved with distress. The humans weren't merely enduring outside the Federation. They were flourishing. Their ships currently moved like phantoms across space, materializing and vanishing freely, employing technology that appeared to challenge the Council's comprehension of physical laws. In another section of the Crystal Tower, the Council's Protection Committee held an urgent meeting. Admiral Brightwing moved around the chamber, her feathers disturbed with agitation. Our finest reconnaissance ships cannot even approach Earth's solar system anymore, she informed, her translators struggling to match her anxious sounds. They've created some type of identification network. Anything carrying Federation markers gets recognized and redirected before reaching their external planets. Council member Vexen, a being formed mainly of concentrated energy, pulsed with worry. What about our undercover operatives? All vanished, Brightwing responded, either identified and expelled, or she stopped. They've decided to switch allegiance. We've lost all internal intelligence on human territory. The committee chamber displays presented a chart of charted space. Crimson markers showed verified observations of human vessels and commercial activities. The markers were multiplying like an infection across the galaxy, focusing particularly in areas the Federation had long disregarded. They're concentrating on the distant settlements, Vexen noted, independent planets that were too insignificant or impoverished for our consideration. And those settlements are expanding swiftly. Another committee participant contributed. Planets that could scarcely maintain their inhabitants 3 years earlier are currently displaying substantial technological advancement, all connected to human commerce. A junior officer rushed into the chamber, violating all established council etiquette. Council members, we've just learned the Zerlian Commercial Center has executed an exclusive arrangement with human traders. The information struck like a physical impact. Zerlian was among the largest independent commercial hubs in the galaxy. Technically, beyond Federation authority, yet consistently dependably aligned with Council priorities. Until this moment, back in his personal chamber, Rexer absorbed the information with a feeling of approaching catastrophe. He accessed the restricted archives, seeking any example of such swift expansion by a singular species. The nearest comparison dated back 50,000 years, when the currently vanished Forerunner civilization had controlled the galaxy. His console signaled with another warning. The most recent examination of human territory displayed proof of enormous building operations. Whatever they were constructing, it was substantial enough to be observable from beyond their protection network, yet too thoroughly shielded to determine. Computer, Rexer stated softly. Present, Ambassador Miller's final address again. As he observed the recording, Rexer distinguished details he overlooked previously. The composed assurance, the total absence of worry about departing the Federation's security. The subtle implications in Miller's statements that humanity had already advanced beyond requiring the Council's acceptance. We handled them like youngsters, experimenting with things beyond their grasp, Rexer repeated, citing Miller's departing statement. Currently, those youngsters were transforming galactic commerce, implementing technology the Council couldn't equal, and constructing something massive in their home system. For the first occasion in his 3 centuries of existence, Rexer experienced genuine fear. The Federation had not simply lost authority over humanity, they had never possessed it initially. And currently, in the enormous silence of space, humanity's actual strength was finally starting to reveal itself. The Galactic Innovation Registry, typically a peaceful location of orderly administration, had collapsed into disorder. Principal Registry Administrator Volix examined the mountain of fresh submissions overwhelming his terminal, all presented through intermediary agents, yet obviously displaying the characteristics of human creativity. Another submission, his aide announced, contributing to the expanding holographic accumulation. This one merges Centaurian energy configurations with adjusted proxy and mineral structures in a manner that boosts productivity by 300%. Veloxi's appendages coiled with exasperation. The humans weren't simply creating fresh technologies. They were acquiring existing technologies from various species and merging them in methods nobody had ever contemplated. Even more troubling, they were executing it superior to the original creators. In the primary council chamber, an urgent assembly was occurring. The floor was filled with physical examples and holographic presentations of human creations that had entered the market in the previous month alone. Examine this, Council member Brightwing stated, triggering a compact mechanism. They acquired our atmospheric converters, merged them with Relian water cleansers, and produced a configuration that can transform a planet in months rather than centuries. They're distributing them at half the cost of our finest designs. High Leader Rexer lifted another mechanism, his scales transforming to a confused orange. This personal protection device employs components from 5 distinct species, shield technologies. Our researchers stated these configurations were contradictory. That's the difficulty, expressed Principal Science Administrator Vaxer, his gelatinous body rippling with frustration. We've all concentrated in our individual technological directions for millennia. Humans operate differently. They perceive connections we overlook. They acquire our concentrated expertise and merge it in methods we never envisioned. A junior council participant triggered a holographic presentation displaying market positions across the galaxy. The graphics revealed a crushing narrative. In area after area, human combined technologies were swiftly replacing conventional council merchandise. Yet how? Brightwing insisted. Their technology was primitive. We observed their research locations. Principal Science Administrator Vaxer approached the chamber center. I've examined their development sequence. We weren't observing their research locations. We were observing what they desired us to observe: diversions, restricted variations. They've been examining us, absorbing knowledge from every species they met, while displaying to us merely a portion of their abilities. The chamber erupted with worried murmurs. Rexer raised his hand for quiet. Present us the proof. Vaxer projected a sequence of images displaying human technological advancement across the previous century. Recognize how each progression was merely substantial enough to demonstrate improvement, yet never adequate to attract serious consideration. They were absorbing, adjusting, merging technologies in their concealed locations while offering a facade of restricted capabilities to our monitors. He transitioned to present. Images of human merchandise overwhelming the market. Currently examine these. Every single creation develops upon numerous existing technologies, enhanced and merged in methods we considered impossible. They didn't simply examine our separate advancements. They examined how everything could function collectively. The proof was unmistakable. Humanity hadn't merely been progressing during their centuries in the Federation. They had been silently exceeding their supposed superiors, anticipating the proper moment to disclose their actual abilities. There's additional information, Vaxer proceeded, his body darkening with alarm. These creations aren't simply random mergers. Each one addresses a particular requirement, confronts a specific weakness in present technology. They've been examining our susceptibilities for centuries. The council chamber descended into silence as the implications settled. They had considered themselves instructors, generously directing a primitive species. Instead, they had been unknowing research subjects in humanity's greatest examination. What should we do currently? Someone finally questioned. Rexer examined the presentation of human creations, each one a demonstration to humanity's distinctive capability to recognize sequences and opportunities that other species overlooked. We hope, he stated quietly, that they recall we once labeled them primitive and discover it within themselves. To pardon us, the creation revolution was merely starting, and nothing the Council could accomplish, except observe, as humanity reshaped the technological environment of the galaxy. One outstanding combination at a time. The Council existed in total confusion. Council member Brightwing observed helplessly as the commerce representative from Centauri Prime, among the Federation's most ancient participants, executed an independent commercial agreement with the human group. This violates Council solidarity, she protested, yet her statements carried none of their previous power. The Centaurian representative simply inclined his crystalline head respectfully. Council member, we must prioritize the requirements of our inhabitants. Human technologies have become fundamental to contemporary civilization. We cannot refuse our citizens access to these progressions any further. This situation was duplicating itself across the galaxy. Individually, Council planets were abandoning unity, creating direct commercial connections with Earth. The humans, once dismissed as primitive, currently occupied negotiating positions as equivalents, or more precisely, as the superior participant, in a protected meeting chamber, deep within the Council Tower. High Leader Rexer met with Human Ambassador Thomas Ward, who had succeeded Miller. The contrast in their situations couldn't have been more evident. Rexer's scales had faded to a worried gray, while Ward occupied his position with the comfortable assurance of someone controlling all advantages. Your conditions are substantial, Rexer stated, examining the commercial proposal before him. Ward responded with courteous amusement. They're genuinely quite fair, considering market conditions. We're providing your planets access to our complete technology collection at reasonable costs. We're even supplying technical instruction for your inhabitants, and in exchange, simply, the elimination of all commercial limitations against Earth and our collaborators. Plus, naturally, an admission that human creation rights have complete security under Federation regulations. Rexer's tail moved. They both recognized this exceeded a simple commercial arrangement. It represented a total power reversal. The Council would be recognizing humanity as a technological superior. Meanwhile, in the common areas of numerous Council planets, the circumstances were becoming urgent. Demonstrations had emerged on 12 significant planets, with residents demanding access to human medical technology, environmental configurations, and consumer merchandise. They're naming it the Human Benchmark currently. Intelligence Administrator Zarissa reported to her supervisors. Any planet that lacks access to human technology gets regarded as undeveloped. Even our most sophisticated participant species face pressure from their inhabitants to create commercial connections with Earth. The consequences were observable everywhere. Ships employing human combined propulsion moved quicker and more productively than conventional vessels. Settlements utilizing human planet transformation technology flourished while others struggled. Medical centers with human apparatus preserved lives that conventional approaches couldn't. Back in the Council chamber, an urgent decision was progressing. The suggestion to officially acknowledge humanity's fresh position and commence discussions for advantageous commercial access. We cannot sustain our situation without their technology. Council member Vexen argued, his energy body pulsing with urgency. Our inhabitants will not accept being abandoned while independent planets prosper with human creations. Yet to confess we were mistaken. Brightwing started. We were mistaken. Rexer interrupted, his voice weighted with acceptance. We were mistaken about their abilities, mistaken about their capacity, and mistaken to limit them. Currently, we must address the results. The decision was almost universal. Within hours, the Council declared its determination to the galaxy. All limitations on human commerce were removed, and a fresh period of collaborative advancement would start. Ambassador Ward conveyed the information to Earth with a straightforward message. Phase 1, accomplished. Starting Phase 2 discussions. In his personal chamber, Rexer examined the data one final occasion. In merely 5 years since departing the Federation, humanity had fundamentally modified the balance of authority in the galaxy. They had achieved it not through military strength or political scheming, but through absolute creative excellence. The authority transformation was finished, and no reversal existed. The species that the Council had once patronized as primitive currently controlled the solutions to the galaxy's technological destiny. And somehow, Rexer suspected this was precisely what humanity had organized throughout. Deep in the Council records, beneath multiple security levels that hadn't been compromised in centuries, archive specialist Telvik made a finding that made his crystalline body nearly fracture with astonishment. His shaking appendages triggered the ancient information storage, and the holographic documents filled the protected chamber with their unsettling illumination. Crisis Procedure 7249. He voiced aloud, his statement resonating in the vacant chamber. Initial encounter, evaluation, humanity. Date Council year 47,390-2. The documentation displayed a considerably younger High Leader Rexer, along with Council participants who had long since vanished into history. They were examining humanity's initial contact assessment. Yet what Telvik observed made his core temperature decrease dramatically. This species demonstrates extraordinary adaptive abilities. The younger Rexer was stating, their pace of technological progress surpasses all recognized sequences. More troubling, they display exceptional capability to comprehend and enhance technologies they meet. Another Council member, currently long deceased, contributed, the projections are evident. If permitted, unrestricted advancement. Humanity could exceed our technological level within several centuries. Then we have agreement. The younger Rexer proclaimed, application of the restriction procedure is sanctioned. Their advancement must be deliberately managed and confined to prevent them from achieving their complete capacity. Telvik's hand trembled as he accessed additional documents. The Council's initial determination had never concerned humanity's primitive condition. It had concerned fear of humanity's capacity for development, their capability to absorb and adjust at rates that frighten the established authority. In another section of the archive, a junior investigator named Zixer was examining Ambassador Miller's final address. He had processed it through every recognized translation system, seeking concealed significance. What he discovered made him rapidly contact archive specialist Telvik specialist. Zixer conveyed urgently, you must examine this. When filtered through the most advanced linguistic examination, Miller's address contains multiple levels of significance we overlooked completely. Telvik appeared just as Zixer was marking crucial expressions from Miller's departure statement. Observe here, Zixer indicated. When he stated mark this day, he wasn't simply creating a dramatic declaration. The word selection, the particular rhythm, it corresponds to ancient caution procedures. He was communicating something to us. Together, they interpreted the concealed communication integrated through Miller's statements. It was a caution, yet not the type they anticipated. Miller had essentially communicated, you attempted to restrict what cannot be restricted. You feared what you didn't comprehend, and in acting so, produced precisely what you feared most. The discovery circulated through the Council's inner group like a shock surge. Crisis assemblies recalled ancient documents were extracted from deep preservation. The reality could no further be refused. The Council's efforts to limit humanity had genuinely accelerated their advancement by compelling them to conceal their actual abilities. Archive specialist Telvik clarified to the assembled Council, we made them more resourceful, more creative. By limiting their access to sophisticated technology, we compelled them to comprehend basic principles more profoundly than any other species. High Leader Rexer, currently considerably older and more experienced, settled heavily in his position as the implications became evident. We didn't limit their advancement, he stated quietly. We produced the ideal circumstances for them to surpass all our anticipations. The final element settled when they found humanity's creation filing sequences across the centuries. Each seemingly straightforward creation had been developing toward more intricate technologies. They hadn't merely been advancing separate technologies, they had been producing a completely fresh technological foundation. That it was all organized, Zixer whispered, examining the proof. Every limitation we positioned on them, every obstacle we produced, they converted each one into an occasion to develop stronger. The Council chamber descended into silence as the complete weight of their discovery settled. They had dedicated centuries attempting to prevent humanity from becoming excessively powerful, only to produce circumstances that assured precisely that result. And somewhere out in human territory, their vessels continued to advance quicker, their settlements continued to multiply, and their creations continued to reshape the galaxy, precisely as that initial council had feared they would. The magnificent council chamber was occupied to maximum capacity for the initial occasion in centuries. Representatives from all Federation planets assembled to observe a historic moment, the official expression of regret to humanity and proposal to rejoin the Galactic Federation. High Leader Rexer positioned himself at the center, his scales reflecting with a combination of modesty and optimism. Before him stood not simply Ambassador Ward, yet a complete human group, including some of Earth's most distinguished leaders, on behalf of the Galactic Council. Rexer started, his voice transmitting through the enormous chamber. We recognize our serious error in assessment and extend our deepest expressions of regret to humanity. We present complete participation in the Federation with all privileges and benefits previously refused. The human group listened courteously, their faces impartial. Ambassador Ward advanced, and the chamber became completely silent. We value the Council's expression of regret, Ward stated, his voice distinct and controlled. However, humanity must respectfully refuse complete participation in its present structure. A surge of whispers circulated through the chamber. Rexer's scales transformed to a surprised blue. This wasn't the answer they had anticipated, Ward proceeded. Instead, we suggest a fresh type of connection, one founded on reciprocal respect and authentic collaboration. We identify it as the Galactic Collaborative Project. He triggered a holographic presentation, displaying a fresh organizational design unlike anything the Council had observed previously. No species positioned above others. Instead, it displayed an interconnected system of connections, with each civilization contributing its capabilities to the greater whole. For excessive duration, the galaxy has functioned under a hierarchy configuration, Ward clarified. We recommend something distinct, a genuine partnership where progress originates not from limitation, but from collaboration. The human suggestion was transformative. Instead of the conventional council design, they suggested focused committees where various species would direct in their domains of proficiency. The Zanari would oversee energy investigation, the Relgans would manage cultural interaction, and humans would distribute their talent for technological combination. Yet the council's power, Brightwing started to object, has become outdated, Rexer interrupted, surprising everyone. Examine around you. The galaxy has transformed. We must transform with it. The human group shared understanding, expressions. This was the moment they had been pursuing, not control, but transformation. We don't desire to govern, Ward stated gently. We desire to construct something superior together. Across the following several hours, the specifications of the fresh arrangement were examined. The previous federation would be eliminated, substituted by the collaborative. No species would possess complete power. Instead, determinations would be executed through an intricate yet equitable confluation of distributed responsibility. There's one additional matter, Ward contributed, triggering another holographic presentation. We've been developing something we identify as the Solidarity Initiative. The presentation displayed enormous building operations in human territory, yet they weren't armaments or defenses. They were investigation facilities, cultural interaction centers, and technological creation centers, all planned for multi-species collaboration. These locations are prepared to receive investigators and researchers from all civilizations, Ward clarified. We've dedicated the previous several years constructing not simply technology, but connections. The chamber erupted in enthusiastic examination. Species that had been competitors for millennia observed fresh opportunities for collaboration. Ancient adversaries discovered common foundation in distributed scientific objectives. As the assembly concluded, Rexer approached Ward privately. You could have insisted anything, he stated. Why select this direction? Ward responded with amusement. Because separation produces fear, and fear produces conflict. We absorbed that instruction from our duration in the Federation. The destiny belongs to those who can function collectively, absorb from each other, and develop beyond their restrictions. As the representatives departed the chamber, there was a tangible feeling of transformation in the atmosphere. The galaxy was beginning a fresh period, not one controlled by humans or the previous council, but one where each civilization could contribute its distinctive talents to a greater whole. And ultimately, that was humanity's greatest creation, not the technology they produced, but the perception of a destiny where fear surrendered to collaboration, and ancient competitors became associates in advancement. The creation revolution was merely starting, and there was nothing the Council could accomplish except observe as humanity reshaped not simply the technological environment, but the very foundation of galactic civilization itself.